The church was soaked in silence, the kind that settles not just in the air but in the bones. Outside, gray clouds smothered the afternoon sun, casting a dull light through the stained glass windows. Inside, the air smelled of old wood, lilies, and grief. Every seat was taken. Rows of mourners, heads bowed, eyes red. Some held tissues to their faces. Others just stared blankly ahead, trying to believe this was real. At the front of the church stood a closed casket. Mahogany. Polished. Heavy. Flowers surrounded it in gentle chaos, white roses, lilies, and the blue hydrangeas his wife said he always loved. A framed photo sat on an easel nearby, a man smiling beside a lake, holding his young son in his arms. That photo was easier to look at than the reality lying inside the box. Except, he wasn't lying still. No one knew it yet. Not the widow, Lisa, sitting in the front row like a ghost inside her own body. Not her sister Sarah, gripping Lisa's hand like it was the only thing anchoring her to earth. Not the priest delivering slow, comforting words about faith and eternal rest. Only the boy knew. Jamie. He was 6 years old. Too young to understand everything but old enough to feel that something wasn't right. He had drawn a picture that morning, crayons on white paper, of him holding hands with his daddy under a tree. He folded it in half and placed it into the casket before they shut it, gently pressing it beside his father's still hands. His mother didn't stop him. She didn't have the strength to stop anything that day. Jamie sat in silence now, next to his mother, but he wasn't listening to the priest. He was staring at the casket. He saw it move. A twitch. A jerk. It was so slight he thought he imagined it. But then it happened again. He leaned forward, his fingers curling around the edge of the pew in front of him. "Mom," he whispered. Lisa didn't answer. She was somewhere far away in her mind, locked behind glass. Jamie stood up. "Daddy's just sleeping," he said, louder now. His voice echoed. Heads turned. Some smiled, some winced. Someone whispered, "Poor." A network error occurred. "Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. Chaos erupted in the church like a match thrown into dry grass. Lisa jolted upright as Jamie screamed again, louder this time, "Daddy's in there. He's alive." His tiny fists pounded on the pew, his face pale and frantic. The priest froze, the Bible trembling in his hands. People murmured, turning toward the casket. It was still. Silent. The air thickened with disbelief. And then came that knock. It was unmistakable now. 1, 2, 3. Soft, but real. From inside the casket. Gasps spread like wildfire. A woman near the back fainted. Lisa stood up, her body stiff with shock. What was that?" she whispered. Her voice sounded foreign, like it belonged to someone else. "Is this a prank?" someone asked loudly. "Is someone trying to be funny?" But nobody laughed. Because then came the second sound. A breath. Not a metaphor. Not someone's sob mistaken for something else. A guttural, desperate inhale. Like a man coming up from underwater. It rattled through the silence like a scream. "Open it!" Lisa shrieked suddenly, stumbling forward. Her heels clacked across the church floor. "Open the damn casket now!" The funeral director, Mr. Brower, who had stood like a quiet statue at the back of the room until now, raced to the front. He waved his assistant forward. "Get the key," he said, his voice clipped and hoarse. His assistant, a young man no older than 25, looked terrified. His hands shook as he fumbled through a pocket. Lisa was sobbing now. "If he's in there, if he's alive, you open it or I swear." "Ma'am, please," Mr. Brower said, gently holding her back. "We need to be sure. This could be a misunderstanding, My son heard it. I heard it. We all did. You open it now." And then, without warning, the lid began to move. No one touched it. No one was near it. But it creaked, just an inch, slowly, like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Like it was resisting. Like something inside was pushing. A scream ripped through the church. People backed away. Some rushed for the exits. Phones came out, fingers dialing emergency services, hands covering mouths. "Jamie, get back!" Lisa cried, grabbing her son. But Jamie was smiling now. Tear-streaked, confused, but smiling. "I told you," he whispered. "Daddy's not gone." 15 minutes earlier. 2 blocks away, in a quiet corner of the city morgue, Dr. Raj Malhotra leaned over a desk, staring at a chart. He was the attending pathologist responsible for signing off the final autopsy report for Jonathan Blake, age 41. Male. No prior major health concerns. Found collapsed in his home. No signs of trauma. Cause of death, suspected cardiac arrhythmia. The file was neat. Clean. Almost too clean. Raj scratched his chin. There had been no autopsy ordered by the family, only a basic report. A preliminary evaluation. But something about it bothered him. The body hadn't exhibited standard rigor mortis timing. The skin hadn't cooled the way he expected. And then there was the detail no one else noticed, the faintest pulse detected hours after the declared time of death, which the paramedic chalked up to residual electrical activity. Raj wasn't so sure. He picked up the phone to call the funeral home. Something felt off. No answer. His eyes darted to the clock. The funeral would already be underway. He stood so quickly he knocked over his chair. "Get me the Blake funeral location," he shouted down the hallway. Now. Present moment, back in the church. The lid slowly, agonizingly, opened a few inches. The air inside the casket hissed out, stale, heavy. The crowd stepped back instinctively. Someone sobbed loudly near the back. Lisa pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. Inside, something moved. A finger. Pale, trembling, twitching against the white satin lining. Then another. A full hand, lifting, clutching at the air blindly like a newborn. A groan escaped the casket, hoarse, dry, like lungs remembering how to breathe. And then came the voice. "Lee, S.A." Whispers turned into shouts. People were crying, running, some still frozen in place as if witnessing a resurrection. The priest dropped his Bible. It hit the floor with a thud, pages fluttering everywhere. Jonathan Blake opened his eyes. His pupils were dilated. His skin was damp with sweat. His lips cracked and blue. He blinked into the lights above him and tried to lift his head, but it flopped sideways. He coughed, a sharp, dry sound that racked his chest. Lisa screamed, this time with joy and terror all at once. "Jonathan? Oh my God, is that really you?" She rushed forward, but Mr. Brower grabbed her arm. "No, he needs medical attention. Don't move him. We need paramedics." "I'm calling again," someone shouted, pressing a phone to their ear. "He's alive. He's alive in the coffin." Jamie stood quietly beside the casket now. His face was calm, oddly peaceful. "I told you," he said again. "Daddy was just sleeping." 30 minutes later, ambulance bay. Sirens blared. The front of the church was cordoned off. Emergency responders loaded Jonathan onto a stretcher, attaching IVs, checking vitals, surrounding him with the urgency of a code-red trauma case. A paramedic looked baffled as he took Jonathan's pulse. Heart rates low but stable. Blood pressures rising. He's coming back. Coming back, another medic repeated. He was declared dead 28 hours ago. The medic shook his head. Doesn't make sense. But he's alive now. Lisa rode in the front of the ambulance, numb and shaking, trying to understand how the impossible had just become real. Jamie sat beside her, holding her hand tightly. He wasn't crying anymore. Just watching. Observing. Like he knew something the rest of them didn't. At the hospital, ICU ward. Jonathan remained unconscious for 2 hours. Doctors ran test after test. Blood work, brain scans, cardiology consults. Nothing explained it. No brain damage. No oxygen loss. No real signs of death. Just, missing time. When he finally woke up, he whispered 3 words that made the nurse stop breathing. They buried me. Later that night, Dr. Malhotra arrived at the hospital, face pale. He'd never seen anything like this in his career. He met Lisa outside the ICU room. I don't know how to explain this, he began. But your husband wasn't dead. Lisa stared at him. Then what was he? I think he may have been in a state called catalepsy. It's incredibly rare. The body becomes rigid. Breathing slows to almost nothing. The heartbeat becomes faint, sometimes undetectable without advanced equipment. So he was alive the whole time, she asked, voice cracking. I believe so. Barely. But yes. Lisa leaned against the wall, her hands shaking. And if Jamie hadn't seen, if he hadn't said anything. Dr. Malhotra nodded solemnly. You would have buried him alive. Jonathan speaks. By midnight, Jonathan was stable enough to speak. Lisa sat beside him, holding his hand. His voice was raspy, almost inaudible. I remember, being in the house, he said. Falling. My chest. Then, black. He paused. His eyes welled up. Then something strange. Like I was awake but, trapped. My mind was alive but my body wasn't. I could hear things. The morgue. Voices. But I couldn't move. Lisa began crying silently. I tried to scream. Tried to move. But it felt like I was sinking deeper. Then I heard Jamie. At the funeral. His voice. Like a lifeline. I followed it. That's when I felt my hand move. I just kept trying. Jamie stood at the door, watching quietly. He stepped in, walked up to his father, and gently placed the crayon drawing into Jonathan's hand again. You forgot this, he said simply. Jonathan smiled through the tears. But not everyone was happy. 2 days later, media swarmed outside the hospital. Headlines blared. Man declared dead wakes up at his own funeral. 6-year-old saves father from being buried alive. Medical mystery shocks experts. But behind the celebration, a darker shadow lingered. Why had Jonathan collapsed in the first place? Why had the paramedics missed the signs of life? And why, now, did Jonathan wake in the middle of the night with vivid memories, memories he shouldn't have? He remembered a voice. Cold. Whispering to him while he was trapped in his own body. 3 days later, 2:17 a.m. The hospital was quiet, unnaturally quiet. A nurse walked slowly down the dim corridor of the intensive care unit. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly above. Machines beeped steadily behind closed doors. It was the kind of stillness that makes you hold your breath without realizing it. Room 308 stood at the far end. Jonathan Blake's room. He was sleeping, they said. Resting peacefully. Stable. But since waking from what they called the impossible coma, he had barely spoken. Except when he dreamed. And he dreamed every night now. In those dreams, he wasn't alone. Earlier that night, Jonathan's dream. He floated in darkness again. Cold, thick, and endless. He couldn't move. Couldn't scream. Just drifted. And then he heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Echoing on a hard surface, like boots walking across a morgue floor. And then, a whisper. You saw too much. Jonathan tried to open his eyes, but he couldn't. The darkness clung to him. Thick. Alive. You weren't meant to come back. Suddenly a face appeared inches from his own, pale, expressionless, but the eyes were wrong. Yellowed. Almost glowing. The face leaned closer. I was waiting for you to stop breathing. And you did. Almost. Then came a laugh. Dry. Low. Chilling. But your son, the voice hissed, he called you back. He shouldn't have. Hospital, room 308. Jonathan woke gasping. Sweat soaked through his hospital gown. The heart monitor beeped rapidly. He sat upright, blinking into the darkness. It took a moment to remember where he was. He looked around. Empty room. Soft light from the hallway slipping through the door. But something was off. There were footprints on the floor. Wet, smeared, as if someone had walked through the room with damp boots. They led from the far corner, right up to his bed. And stopped. His breath caught in his throat. He pressed the call button. Nothing. He pressed it again. Still nothing. A faint knock sounded. Not on the door. From inside the bathroom. Jonathan stared. The door was closed. Light off. He hadn't used it in hours. Another knock. Soft. Rhythmic. He swung his legs off the bed, heart pounding. His hands trembled as he picked up the hospital phone. But the line was dead. He reached for the drawer to grab the nurse remote again. Inside was a small black feather. He froze. Another knock. And then. A low whisper behind him. Why did you come back? Jonathan turned, fast. Nothing. The room was empty. But the bathroom door creaked open, inch by inch. Same time, nurse's station, hallway outside room 308. Nurse Lila glanced at the monitor, frowning. Jonathan Blake's vitals had spiked again. Second time that night. She stood up, picked up the chart, and walked toward his room. She never made it. Because halfway down the hallway, the lights flickered. Buzzed. Then everything went black. Emergency backup kicked in, dull red lights lit the path. She froze. From Jonathan's room came a sound. A dragging sound. Like wet cloth being pulled across tile. Then a voice. A child's voice. But Jamie wasn't there. He's not sleeping anymore. Lila dropped the chart and ran. Later that morning, Lisa's apartment. Lisa stood at the kitchen counter, clutching a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. She hadn't slept. Not since the night Jonathan woke. Her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again. Same number. Then again. Lisa picked it up. Hello? The line crackled. No response. Hello? She repeated, more sharply now. Then, a breath. Not hers. Heavy. Labored. Familiar. Lisa, a low voice whispered. She froze. Who is this? No answer. Just breathing. She hung up. 3 seconds later, it buzzed again. Same number. She turned off the phone. Back at the hospital, Dr. Malhotra's office. Dr. Raj Malhotra stared at a copy of Jonathan's initial death report. Something wasn't right. The time of death. The reported heartbeat. The missing temperature records. And one more thing. The name of the morgue technician on duty that night was missing. Blank. No signature. No initials. No confirmation. He picked up the internal logbook. Under "Body Transfer to Funeral Home," a scribbled name appeared, barely legible. A. Renner. He frowned. He didn't know any Renner on staff. He typed the name into the hospital employee system. No matches. He pulled up external databases. State licensing boards. Medical records. Nothing. No record of any certified mortuary technician by that name in the city. Raj's skin prickled. He scrolled back through security logs from the night of Jonathan's transfer. Camera 14, morgue loading bay, footage unavailable. Camera 12, internal hallway, static. Only one camera worked. He clicked play. At 2:46 a.m., a figure appeared on screen, pushing a gurney down the hallway. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Black coat. Black gloves. Face completely obscured. The gurney held a sealed body bag. Labeled J. Blake. The man paused under the hallway light. And looked up. Straight into the camera. Even though his face was blurred, hidden by the angle and grain, his eyes were visible. They glowed faintly yellow. Raj slammed the laptop shut. Meanwhile, Jamie's room. Jamie hadn't spoken much since the hospital. Not to his mom. Not to anyone. But he had drawn. All night. Sheets of paper covered the floor. Crayon sketches. All in black, gray, and red. One showed his father inside the casket, with red eyes staring from above. Another showed a dark hallway. And in the center, a tall man in a coat, his face hidden by darkness, but his eyes glowing like candles. Lisa knelt beside her son. "Jamie, who is this?" Jamie didn't look at her. He kept coloring. "That's the man who was going to take Daddy," he said softly. Lisa stared at the drawing. "Where did you see him?" Jamie finally looked up. "He came to the hospital. He said Daddy cheated." Lisa's blood ran cold. That night, Jonathan's room again. Jonathan lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard footsteps. The doctor had said it was PTSD. The brain playing tricks. But Jonathan wasn't so sure. He sat up and checked the time. 3:03 a.m. He turned to the side, and froze. A man sat in the corner of the room. Still. Silent. Jonathan's mouth went dry. Who are you?" No answer. The man leaned forward slowly. Pale skin. Hollow cheeks. Black coat. Yellow eyes. "You weren't supposed to come back," he said again. Jonathan pressed the call button. The man stood. "You owe me a trade," he whispered. The room went black. Late night, ICU room, Jonathan's hospital. 3:07 a.m. The red emergency lights hummed. The faint beep of the heart monitor was a mechanical lullaby in the dim room. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat as the figure vanished. The blinds remained still. The chair in the corner was empty. Yet the silence lingered, like something unseen had just slipped out of sight. His pulse pounded, fast, irregular. He dialed the nurse. The voice on the other end was distant, sleepy. "Jonathan? Everything okay?" He closed his eyes. I thought I saw someone." "We'll send someone up," she said, switching to a calmer tone. "Try to rest." But rest wasn't coming. Hospital corridor. A security guard, Riley, made his nightly rounds. The overhead lights flickered ominously in sections of the ICU wing. Another quick patrol. Another empty room. Yet something felt wrong. He passed room 308, glanced in. No movement. No staff. Just the quiet beep, beep. He leaned in, as if he heard something. His flashlight beam caught a dark smudge on the floor near the bathroom door. Wet footprints. Riley's stomach churned. He stepped inside. Footsteps behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Back in room 308. Jonathan stared at the bathroom door. Every hair on his arm stood up. He closed his eyes, counted to 10. Opened them. The door was open, no one inside. He exhaled. Then saw something on the floor. Another black feather. After a beat, he got up, slow. He traced his steps, collected it with trembling fingers. Downstairs, Dr. Malhotra's office. Raj sat surrounded by notes, footprints, missing autopsy files, the unknown morgue tech, the strange face in the morgue video. He didn't believe in ghosts, but what was happening was unexplainable. He'd made calls. Asked questions. No answers. He leaned back, exhaustion washing over him. There was a knock at the door. 2 hospital chaplains entered, somber, quiet. "We came to offer support for Jonathan, and you," one said. Raj rubbed his eyes. "I appreciate that," he replied. "We also came because of unusual circumstances," the chaplain continued. "Some patients are experiencing spiritual disturbance." Raj stared. "You're saying I'm not the only one?" They shifted. "Maybe," one whispered. "Maybe his experience is connected to something deeper." Raj listened. It didn't make things clear, but it made them wider. Later that night, Lisa's apartment. It was near midnight. Lisa hadn't slept. She scrolled pictures on her phone of Jamie's drawings. Those dark figures with yellow eyes. The footprints in the hospital. Black feathers. A knock came from outside. She froze. Her front door creaked. "Jamie? Mom?" Jamie's voice, soft, strange. She leapt up. He stood there, holding something. "Mom. I found it." It was a torn strap of his dad's coat, dark as night. "It fell behind my closet door," he said. "How long have you had this?" "A few days. I knew I wasn't supposed to touch it." Lisa swallowed, fear twisting in her chest. "I sent a text to Dad's phone last night. Not to call or anything, just a text. I said, stay away." She stared at him. "Why did you do that?" Jamie's eyes were steady. "Because I heard Daddy. He's trapped. And he's afraid." 3:43 a.m., ICU room, hospital. Jonathan lay awake, wide-eyed. Beside him, the black feather lay on the bedside table. He picked it up. Outside, the lights flickered. He closed his eyes. Footsteps. "Breathe." The door opened. Nurse Lila stepped in, fresh-faced, coffee in hand. "Hi," she said quietly. "Can't sleep either?" Jonathan shook his head. Lila set down the coffee. She noticed the feather. "That came from the feather pillow?" she asked loosely, scanning. Jonathan nodded. "I had to grab some from home," she said. But, she paused, her voice softening, I think someone's entering your room. His eyes widened. I got a bad feel tonight. Someone told me, trust your instincts. Thank you, he whispered. She stayed until the morning light crept under the blinds. Next morning, hospital conference room. Dr. Malhotra, Nurse Lila, security guard Riley, and Lisa Blake convened. They all nodded. Pieces had begun to fit, dark, uncomfortable pieces, but they fit. We have unexplainable entry points, Riley said. Wet footprints. No sign of staff traffic. Security cameras go blank at key moments. Lisa spread out some pages, drawings from Jamie. Yellow eyes. Black coat. Feathers. Raj pointed to the morgue doc missing. This a Renner. No record, no credentials. But footage shows him looking at the camera. Lila chimed in. In Jonathan's room. I hear movement. No door alarms triggered. It's like someone can walk through. They exchanged glances. It's not just medical, Raj said softly. Something else. Lila added, my grandmother once spoke of shadows that walk. Entities that linger between life and death. They all fell silent. That's superstition, Riley said quietly, shocked at the thought. But what else explains it? Lisa whispered. That night, Lisa's apartment. Jamie slept. His mom whispering prayers. But he wasn't sleeping. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He heard breathing. Soft. Close. You took him, a voice said. Sheer chill. Not his father's voice. He bolted upright. Show yourself. Nothing. Just the dark. Just Jamie's heavy breaths. Moonlight, Jonathan's home, rehab weekends. Jonathan had been allowed supervised weekend leave. He sat in his favorite chair, gazing at the coat Jamie brought, dark and still. He slipped it on. Cold settled in his bones. In the coat pocket, a scrap, crayon drawing of the shadow man. He held it. Then footsteps behind him. He spun. No one. But the coat. It felt alive. He yanked it off. Dropped it on the floor. Late night, ICU room, hospital. Jonathan's window rattled. He pulled the curtain. Outside, nothing. The city lights blurred. He stepped outside. The hall was empty. Footprints led away, pooling at the wall. He followed and found more feathers on the floor. They led to the window, then stopped. He turned back. Lila stood in the doorway, ghost-like. I tried to stop you, she said. The board, they want to discharge you early. No anomalies, they say. He swallowed. Let me finish this, he whispered. She studied him, worry and relief mingling in her eyes. Just promise me you'll be careful. He nodded. Final scene, Lisa and Jonathan at hospital chapel. Light from stained glass painted sharp colors on the floor. They held hands, his grip weak, hers strong. We have to face it, Lisa said. How? Jonathan asked. Jamie's coat lay between them. Eyes locked, they realized they needed to step into the darkness. To uncover what this Renner was. To save their son. To protect their family. They rose. The chapel door closed behind them. Night deepened over the city, its hum faint through the tall windows of the Blake family's temporary apartment. Inside, every light remained lit. Inside, every heartbeat echoed too loud. Evening, Lisa's bedroom, Blake apartment. Lisa sat cross-legged on the floor, crumpled drawings scattered around her. Jamie lay asleep in the next room. Jonathan was out, he'd slipped off to the hospital again, determined to confront the mystery head-on. She sifted through the drawings, shadowed figures, feather-like scribbles, the hollow eyes of something unnatural. One always caught her eye, the tall man in the coat, standing behind Jamie as he slept. She held it close, her voice soft. "What do you want, and why do you haunt our family?" Her question drifted into silence. She pressed the drawing to her throat, took a shuddering breath, and forced herself to calm down. Tomorrow, they would go back to the hospital as a team. Tonight, she would try to rest. Late night, hospital, corridor near morgue. Meanwhile, Jonathan crept down the hallway. Footsteps quiet. ECG leads dangling from his wrist. Each monitor beep from the rooms left behind echoed in his ears. He pushed open the morgue doorway, feeling heat rush to his face at his boldness. A single desk lamp illuminated a narrow space. Drawers and metal cabinets lined the walls. A corridor cut through the center, dark and deep. The receptionist was gone. Lights were dim. He swallowed fear as he searched. He heard a soft rustle, like a loose cord against metal. He walked forward. The lamps flickered. He froze. A figure stood far down the corridor. Tall. Silhouetted. Black coat, gloves. Yellow eyes reflected the pale light. He felt dread descend. Stop. The figure didn't move. Jonathan's heart thundered. "I'm not letting this go," he said. "I need answers." The figure moved forward, just a step. No words. Jonathan reached out. The figure's arm thudded against his, no flesh, nothing solid. Jonathan staggered back. The figure turned away and walked down the corridor. Jonathan hurried after, but halfway there the morgue door slammed shut. Metal against metal. He screamed, pounding the door with his fists. The figure turned, backlight carving it in silhouette. Jonathan wanted to open the door, follow. But the door remained locked, silent but impenetrable. Banging the door, he gasped, "Renner. Renner. You can't hide." A low whisper floated back. "He owes a price." Early morning, Blake apartment, living room. Lisa awoke to creaks, to quiet footsteps. She slipped on slippers and walked into the hallway. The apartment was silent. Jamie's door shut, but she found him awake, sitting on his bed drawing again. "Did Daddy leave?" he asked. His voice was sleepy, but his eyes dark. "He's at the hospital," Lisa said. "Can you be quiet?" He nodded. She tucked him back to bed. As she turned to leave, her foot brushed a torn piece of paper on the floor. A page from Jonathan's notebook, his question scrawled, "He owes a price." The words made her skin crawl. What did that mean? Later that day, hospital conference room. Raj, Riley, Lisa, Jonathan, and Lila gathered again. The morgue attempt left Jordan shaken. "We tried to trace Renner," Riley said. "Nothing. No record. No employee, no video, nothing." Jonathan laid a hand over the scarred lines of his chest. He said, "I owe a price." "What price?" Silence hung. Lila reached out. "When I saw the footprints, they were deep. Not human deep, almost like something heavy." Raj flipped through photocopied morgue logs. Time stamps missing around the transfer. Someone covered their tracks. Someone lingers between death and life. Jonathan looked around the table. "He told me, he was waiting. Waiting for me to die again. He's not done." Evening, City Archive Room. Raj and Lila visited old city records. They dug through files of unexplained deaths, morgue mysteries, and unusual obituaries. Decades passed, they uncovered headlines: "Body found alive in casket, suspicion rises," two men awaken after live burial, unmarked funerals and lost IDs. Some articles were thin, police dismissals of false alarms or sensational hoaxes. But their consistency unnerved them. One old archive contained a black and white photo, a funeral home with its doorway open at midnight. A tall figure in a dark coat stood out in the doorway, blurry, ominous. Yellow marks circled the eyes. A photographer's note scribbled, "He appears again after each live burial. They call him the Collector." Lila and Raj stared in shock. Night, Blake apartment, kitchen. Jonathan shoved cold coffee in him while Lisa stared at him, fear in her eyes. "They call him the Collector," she whispered. Jonathan nodded. "He collects what crosses the boundary between life and death." Jamie woke at the sound of voices. He trudged in, camera slung around his neck, drawings in hand. "Daddy," he said. "He's coming." Jonathan looked at the walls. "What do you mean?" Jamie held up a drawing, the tall figure looming over him, the dead bird beside him. "The Collector took Bobby." Lisa froze. "Bobby? Who's Bobby?" A small photograph on the fridge caught her eye, Mario, their neighbor's boy who had died 2 nights before. "Oh my God," she whispered, tears clouding her vision. Late night, hospital chapel. Jonathan bowed his head, holding Jamie close. "We need to help both of you. The Collector, he takes. Sometimes he swaps." He looked up. "We need to find who's missing. Who needs returning." Lila stepped out with a folder, names of recent unclaimed bodies in morgue archives. Several matched properly, but one did not, the body unidentified since a month ago. They cross-checked with missing persons list, name, Bobby Carson. Age 6. Jonathan's blood ran cold. Climax of Part 5, Morgue Break-In. That night, Jonathan, Lisa, Raj, and Riley infiltrated the morgue. They cut power, bypassed keypads, used Riley's guard access codes. Inside, they found drawers labeled, logged, but one drawer, labeled unidentified, was open, no body. Black feathers lay on the slab. A single dark feather lay on the floor, identical to the one they'd all found. Raj examined the drawer label, body moved. They heard a soft hiss, footsteps. Riley raised his flashlight. Yellow eyes lit the far hall. The Collector. He stepped forward, silent. Snow-white gloves. He whispered. "Debt must be paid." The morgue's door slammed shut behind them. Their flashlights flickered. Inside the morgue, midnight. The cold air was sharp and unforgiving. The walls pressed in as Jonathan, Lisa, Raj, and Riley stood trapped in the dim morgue, the figure of the Collector blocking the exit. The yellow eyes pierced through the dark. "Debt must be paid," the voice whispered again, echoing off the steel. Jonathan clenched his fists, the coat Jamie had found folded tightly in his jacket pocket. The feather inside pressed cold against his palm. "Who are you? What do you want from us?" Jonathan demanded. The Collector's lips never moved, but the words were inside their heads, chilling and clear. "You live between moments. Your survival unsettles the balance. A price must be paid to close the breach." Lisa swallowed hard, fear and determination rising. "What price?" The Collector raised a pale gloved hand and pointed at Jamie's drawings pinned to the wall, each depicting shadows, feathers, the dark figure looming. "The debt is the lost. The taken. Bobby is the currency. You must trade." Flashback, Jonathan's memory. Jonathan's mind raced back to the night before the funeral. The coffin lid slammed open. His scream echoed. But why did the figure wait? Because death was not final. Because something unseen crossed the boundary. Because the Collector sought balance. Back to the morgue. Raj stepped forward. Balance? What kind of balance? How do we fix this? The collector's figure shimmered, as if caught between forms. Return what is taken. Restore what is lost. Jonathan looked around. The drawer for Bobby's body was empty. A sudden cold gust blew through the morgue. Jamie whispered, "He's here." A whisper from the shadows. The lights flickered violently. Suddenly, Bobby appeared, alive but pale, eyes wide, trembling. He ran into Lisa's arms, sobbing. It was dark, and cold. Lisa hugged him tight. Jonathan's relief was immediate but cautious. "The collector wants a trade," Raj said grimly. "We owe him a price," Lisa said. The unexpected twist. Suddenly, the lights went out. A deafening silence fell. When the lights returned, the collector was gone. But so was Bobby. The room plunged into chaos. "Where is he?" Jonathan yelled. No answer. Outside the morgue, hospital hall. Lisa held Jamie tightly. Jonathan paced the corridor, mind racing. Raj checked the security cameras. The feed was gone. "Everything is being erased," Raj muttered. The final bargain. The group gathered in a circle. "We have two choices," Raj said. "Trade. Or lose more." Jonathan's eyes darkened. "I'm not letting my family suffer." Lisa nodded. "We need to find out who the collector wants." Jamie stepped forward, holding his drawings. "Maybe it's someone else missing. Searching for clues." Days passed. The hospital went quiet. But Lisa found an old journal among Jonathan's belongings, a diary from a previous patient who had disappeared. The entries spoke of strange visitors, shadows at night, and a price paid in silence. The last page read, "The debt is not just for me. It's for all who linger between life and death." The final confrontation. Armed with knowledge and desperation, Jonathan, Lisa, Raj, and Jamie returned to the morgue. They brought offerings, memories, prayers, and hope. The collector appeared again. This time, Jonathan spoke calmly. "We accept the debt. But no more taking the innocent." The collector's figure rippled. Balance must be restored. A light enveloped the room. Resolution. Bobby reappeared, alive and whole. The lost were returned. The hospital halls grew still. The family was whole.